Okay, Steve, you're good? All right, thank you for being patient. We're a few minutes late, but at this time, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance. For Dan? Yeah. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Our first order of business is a public hearing and comment on the budget and code of conduct. Do we have to make a motion to enter that?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, well.
Okay, I'll do budget first. Do budget first?
Yeah, do the budget first.
Okay.
Through.
See some of our student district leadership team members. Thank you for coming. Tonight is the budget hearing, and just to clarify that at this point in time, the board has adopted the budget, and this is just a public hearing. It's complete. There are no changes after this time. Sometimes people are confused, but all of the opportunities for input into the budget happen from January all the way through till the board adoption. So tonight is just the public hearing of the budget. And I just have to thank Linda Steinberg for doing a tremendous job this year, and actually in all the years that she's done the budget. She's actually having withdrawals right now because this is the first time that I actually stand up and give the board the budget presentation. Both Aviva, Linda, and I have been doing budget road shows to faculty meetings, PTAs, the senior class, anybody who'll listen, Rotary. So we've been out and about, but really Linda does the yeoman's work on putting the budget together. Oh, clicker. We always like to begin with our mission statement. Get that. I will go quickly. The board probably also has this budget memorized, and if we want to go back and ask questions, we'll leave time for that. So the general operating budget represents a 3.66% increase budget to budget. The bulk of the cost of the increase in our budget are medical and insurance and benefits. That is the bulk of some of the increase, as well as all of our collective bargaining salary increases. But as you know, the increase in benefits across the state and the nation are all double digits. The levy increase is 2.53. This is also one of the most difficult things for people to understand, because when the tax cap came out, it was touted as 2%. And it's not 2%, it's a formula, and the formula is different for every district. You could actually be within the tax cap and have a 3.5% tax levy increase. We are this year right at our allowable limit at 2.53%. So that means by staying within the tax cap, if you are eligible for a STAR rebate, you will receive your STAR rebate. The proposed levy for taxes is $60 million. The tax levy is $60 million. Okay, my slides are not in the same order. This is the itemized breakdown of our proposed budget with the increases and decreases. We are appropriating $2 million of fund balance to offset the costs this year in the budget. the gap between what our budget came to and what we wanted to add from fund balance so that we could stay within the tax cap. That is the bottom line, the fund balance appropriation. This is a slide we, by law, have to put up, and a slide that we're also very proud of. We always tell people that your basic 101 school budgeting is that you look at that administrative cost, and it should be below 10%. And Linda, this is the lowest it's been in how long?
I'm not sure in how long, but it's the lowest it's been at least since 2012.
Since 2012. Since Linda's been preparing the budget, each year she gets the administrative costs a little bit lower. Program is 77% of the budget. Obviously, that's what we do. We run a program. So we also have to keep the lights on and the roofs from leaking. That's our capital. And the admin portion of the budget is below 10%, and it is at 9.13. This is how we break down our budget. Salaries, contractual supplies, equipment, transfer to other funds, debt service payment, and employee benefits. For the viewers' knowledge, as well as what we put out in all of our schools, we have what we call a budget report card that has the line-by-line detail of the budget that is available here tonight. And it is also available in each one of our schools at the front desk. We always keep 2 copies. So if anybody is interested in seeing the line-by-line breakdown of our budget, it is available tonight out at...
It's in the vestibule out here.
It's in the vestibule. I thought it was in the lobby. And 2 copies in each building. So that ends the portion that is our total budget proposal. We have 3 propositions on the budget. So the first proposition is our general operating budget. Denise, when we presented to the students last week, she overheard one student explaining to another that there were going to be 3 propositions and you had to choose one. So it was perfect timing because we were just about to give the whole senior class our budget presentation, and I was able to clarify that there are 3 propositions and you have 3 opportunities to say yes, we approve, or no. So that was a good clarification. So the Proposition 2 is our capital project. Our district leadership team, and there are several members of our district leadership team here tonight, 2 of our students, Carly and Nate. We have been working on the capital project for over 2 years. One of the first things right off the bat, oh, and I'm sorry, Leah Straight joined us this year. So in addition to serving as our student board member, she actually joined the district leadership team. So we had 4 students. Sorry, Leah, I forgot that.
Okay.
So it was great. We had great student voice and student representation on putting together our capital project. In a nutshell, all of our science labs, our hashtag is that all of our science labs predate man landing on the moon. So our science labs at Haviland Middle School and at FDR are between 50 and 70 years old, and a lot has changed. We also have a student video on our website. The students designed a video about the state of our science labs. They don't tell people how to vote, but they made a very creative rendition of the state of our science labs with and their perspective on the science labs. So if you get a chance, please take a look at the 5-minute student video. So for the capital project, we are proposing that we replace the science labs at Haviland Middle School and at FDR. We also then took our building condition survey and prioritized the work that needed to be done in the district. And we landed on the heating and ventilation systems. And when we looked at replacing the science labs at FDR, it became obvious that we needed to do a lot of work in what we call the pods, the newer portion of the building in the back. So The pods will be renovated, and the heating and ventilation throughout the entire high school, middle school, and North Park. The total cost for the new science labs and the heating and ventilation upgrades in 3 of our buildings is $26 million. We received 61.9% state aid on any capital project. So if you look at this slide, if you subtract out the state aid, a $26 million project comes down to $9 million. Over the years, we've asked our voters to authorize us to start a savings account, a capital reserve account, and we are taking $4 million of the $7 million capital reserve to offset the $26 million and bringing it down even further, so that a $26 million capital project will be $5.9 million in new money. At the very bottom of this slide, we explain that another way to look at it is the $26 million, you take off the $4 million we have in the savings account, and it brings it down to $22 million. That's what we have to borrow. But the minute our payments are due, the state aid reimbursement comes in. That's that $16 million. So as we start to pay off the $22 million loan, the $16 million starts to come in. And again, back to that $5.9 million, that's the new money that we have to come up with in order to afford this project. In order to finance a capital project when you have buildings that are 50 to 70 years old, one of the things that we do is we try to time our capital projects along with our debt service so that we don't see too many fluctuations and have to increase taxes by a lot because we waited too long, and now, you know, we've paid off so much debt that we have to take out a big loan. We came close. We were within $300,000, Linda?
In total, it's about $300,000 for each of those years.
Yeah, so $300,000. So if you see where the green bar pierces the dotted line, that was where we went above our debt level service. So our loan for this $26 million project, our debt service, will increase slightly for a 2-year period of time. I think the next slide shows what it would cost the taxpayers. So in order to fund that increase in debt level service for just those 2 years, for an average house that's assessed at $200,000, they would pay, is it $16 per year for 2 years. So the increase in debt level service, if you have a house that's around approximately an assessed value of $200,000, your increase would be about $16 a year for 2 years. The third proposition is our bus replacement cycle. We've had a lot of great questions about this. All of our transportation department runs on a replacement cycle. So we run our buses 10 to 12 years, and as we retire a bus, we replace a bus. We have brought down our costs with declining enrollment. We're buying more smaller buses, and then thanks to the Energy Committee this year, 4 of the buses that we're purchasing will be gasoline versus diesel, and that brought our total cost down by another $300,000. So this year we've, right off the bat, our Proposition 3 is reduced because of the savings of moving 4 buses from diesel to gas, as well as buying a few more smaller buses. Our state aid for transportation is 60%, so the total cost to purchase all those buses, 4 passenger buses, 1 72-passenger bus, 1 minivan, and 2 15-passenger wheelchair vans is $692,000 minus our state aid. The bus proposition this year is $276,000. This is the explanation of your, whether or not you're eligible for the STAR tax rebate. Again, you can only get that if we are within our tax cap, which we are. We have heard confusion from the community that our 2.53, they're like, how can they be tax cap compliant if it's 2.53? And again, it's an uphill battle because it was originally stated as a 2% tax cap, but it's a formula. And for our district, the formula works out for this year that it's 253. So if you have a gross income of less than $275,000, you do qualify. And so last year, the rebate cannot be greater than the tax bill, and the rebate for qualified Hyde Park taxpayers last year was $130,000. $130,000. That would have been great. Okay. Couple of options. The budget vote is May 15th from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Should the budget go down, there are a number of options. You can go out for another vote. State law now says the vote has to be, a second vote has to be on June 19th. You can submit the same budget and just ask the voters to weigh in a second time. We can go back to the drawing board and put up a modified budget. We would never make the budget higher, so a modified budget would imply that we would reduce, we'd cut from some areas and put up a revised version, or the board can go to contingency. And the gap between our current budget and contingency is $1.4 million. We would have to go back into the budget and cut $1.4 million. There are rules about contingency. On the left-hand side of the screen, if a district goes to a contingent budget, those you absolutely have to take out. Equipment, some student supplies, community use of buildings, some capital expenditures, and salary increases for the non-unionized staff. There's about 20 non-unionized staff, so no salary increase. That's a given if you go to contingency. The right-hand side are optional. So I think on the next slide, what Linda has prepared, is it on this slide? No. Yes. That, I think it's the next slide that actually states what the gap is.
Yeah. This one just calculates the non-contingent.
So this takes out the non-contingent and brings it down to 94 million. There's still a gap. There's another, so once you take out the things that have to be taken out, that brings you down to that number. And then we still need to come up with $638,000 if we went to contingency. If you went to contingency, you could look at the column on the right, or you could look at fund balance, or we could look at other areas. You don't have to go to the list on the right, but those are some of the places you could look to recoup the missing $638,000. But we're a long way from that. We would go back to the drawing board. We would make public presentations of what we would do in addition to the mandatory contingent items, and then the difference of the $638,000. Bless you. So today is the hearing. May 15th is the budget vote and board member election. And I believe, before we get there, I believe Doug wanted to say something about the board member election. There is also a board member election on the ballot.
Before we...
Do we want to do any questions on budget before we go to the board member election?
I have one question. You know, it's triggered by your first opening statement about three propositions and selecting one. We actually have three propositions. Any one or all of three could fail.
Yes.
Can we bring back the other two propositions in their current form or some other form on the second vote?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Good question. Okay, Doug.
Okay. In years past, we've had a Meet the Candidates night. In the last few elections, it's been incumbent board members running for their own seats, and we haven't had that. This year, we have 2 candidates for 2 seats, but 1 board member is stepping down, Mr. Mittermeier. So we have 1 new face. That would be Carl Tomic. He happens to be here tonight. Steve, if you want to, just wave, Carl, you know, it's like, yeah, there you go. Carl is a longtime member of the community. Hopefully everybody's read his little bio that's in the newsletter. I am convinced he'll be an excellent board member. Mr. Sheldon could not be here tonight because he happens to be the F&O director at Red Hook, and they have an important meeting tonight, so, but he has been a very effective board member, and I'm very happy that he is going for another term. So that's about all I wanted to say on that. I think we go to the Code of Conduct. Aviva, you got?
Yeah, so there are a few changes that are in, that we're proposing tonight for the hearing. Some are, there's a lot of places where it has superintendent, but it doesn't say or designee. And as the Dignity Act coordinator for the district, it's really my responsibility under regulation to be investigating at the district level. So we need to add that language in all of those places. There are also a lot of places where, although there's 30 days to conduct the building level and the district level investigation, the board level procedure only gives you 15 days to do an investigation or to review documents, and then 15 days to render a decision. So I'm suggesting that we catch up with the rest of the policy, and especially because the board doesn't meet as often. You know, we're at work every day, and it's a lot easier for us to meet and conduct investigations, and I would suggest that it just match the rest of the timelines. And it doesn't say school days or not, it just says days. So that's up to you if you want to add that, but I recommend adding school days, because that's when we're in business throughout the document. There's also some unclear language, and this is only for very small parts of the Code of Conduct. This is about the Dignity Act investigation, the regulation, 0115. And it also talks about a hearing at the board level, and although it doesn't specify that means that people are coming rather than a review of documents, I suggest that it be called a review, because it'll work the same as if there is a superintendent determination that gets appealed to the board. You're just reviewing documents. You're not interviewing witnesses and things like that. So,
right.
And I have gotten some legal advice, and really those are not supposed to be hearings where the board is interviewing witnesses for a Dignity Act complaint. So we'd rather clean up that language. So are there any questions? And I know this is public, so people can speak after and
Right.
ask any questions or comments. So I wanted to, in the next section, but I just want to see if the board had questions about those changes.
Okay, well, that next section is right now.
All right.
So can I have a motion to open public hearing for comment on the budget or the Code of Conduct, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. If anybody on the audience here would like to ask a question or make a comment on either the budget or the Code of Conduct, you could step to the mic, that would be good. Any questions? It's essentially the same as it was last year. I mean, it's not...
Except for what I said.
Except for what you said, yeah.
Right.
We have
All right.
one.
We have one. Thank you.
Good evening. One question, and thank you for getting into debt service. That was the area that I was interested in, so maybe
Okay.
a couple of clarifiers. The $16 million that is going to be paid back is, I got the idea that's really at the end of your fiscal year, not at the beginning, so that really falls into the next, is that true that falls into next year's debt? Or does that come active to you to use the same year that you go into that budget cycle?
You want to explain that timing on that? That's the 61 million? The 16 million on the capital
As a portion of the
project?
26.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we receive that over 15 years. We receive it near the end of the year, but before we make our debt
And
payments.
is that a commitment, or is that, could politics change that over time?
It may change, but for future projects. So
But-
if,
so for
once
this-
this
when this-
project is approved, like, if the voters approve it, then we also submit for approval from the state, and once they approve it, then they're committed to paying the
Okay,
aid.
thank you. So the number then that you look in the debt service, I saw a 4.2% increase in debt service from year to year, starting next year's budget. Is that 4.2% based on what ended up being a $5 million change, or is it part of the 9? What number was used to get to that?
So the amount that you see in debt service is what we pay out in debt every year. For this project, we won't have debt payments for a few years because we
Okay.
first have to plan the project.
So that
and then
4.2% then is without Prop 2?
It's without Prop 2, yes.
So
but-
do you have an estimate of what it would be with Prop 2?
Well, we won't have, the Prop 2 won't be in the budget next year.
No, but when it hits.
Yes.
It's a 15, long-term, we all know how
Yes.
math builds on
Yeah,
itself.
so when we talk about the debt service, we talk about the local share, so we talk about what we pay out every year and what we get back in aid. It's been $1.56 million every year since at least 2012. With this project, it'll be the same amount every year, except for those 2 years that Greer talked about on the graph,
First 2 years.
2020 and 21. Those go, in those 2 years, it'll be about 1.8 million. And those are the 2 years that the average increase in taxes annually will be about $16.
Right, but as far as that 4.2%, when it starts to build 2 years from now, you don't have an estimate of what that number looks like?
We do have, I don't have it in front of me, but we do have it from a prior presentation. If you want to, I can show it to you afterwards if you want to stay.
I just wonder
can show you where it is.
if it's
Yeah.
significant, or if it's,
Yeah, but the amount that we get in the aid offsets it. So the amount that the taxpayers pay, the amount that we add to the tax levy every year, just for debt, it's not just the amount that's in the debt service payments, but we also consider what we're receiving back in aid.
right, so that assumes that it's the net,
Yes.
and not the gross.
So net
The
is-
of state and of contribution.
Yes, the net is the 1.56 million.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
Questions? Sure.
thank you.
Any other questions on either topic? Last chance. Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, for tonight's agenda, there are no modifications that I'm aware of, so may I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, it brings us to upcoming events. Lots of them, I see.
You don't want to read them all.
Yeah, okay. Monday, May 7th, 7 o'clock, is the middle school concert number 1 at the middle school, spring concert. Wednesday, May 9th, 2 days later, is their middle school spring concert number 2, also at the middle school. Tuesday, May 15th, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. is the budget vote and Board of Election member election. And it's also the middle school spring concert number 3. So we're getting them all in a row. Wednesday, May 19th, 7 p.m. is the Ralph Smith spring concert, and that will be at FDR. Monday, May 21st, 6 p.m. is College Info Night, which has been rescheduled because of the snow when it was originally planned. That is at FDR. That same night at 7 p.m. is the North Park Spring Concert, also at FDR. And Tuesday, May 22nd, 7 p.m. is the Violet Avenue Spring Concert at Violet Avenue. And Wednesday, May 23rd, 7 p.m. is the FDR Spring Concert number 2 at FDR. And the next board meeting is Thursday, May 24th, 7 p.m. Here at the district office. So, lots of concerts. I recommend anybody that likes music, please attend. Okay. That brings us to Pride, and we always start with the lovely Leah.
Okay, so last Friday at FDR was Mr. President, and it was lovely, and we all had a great time. This Saturday is the race at the Oval Office, which I highly recommend everyone attend. It's a great time. Sarah Trainer will be running, and on the subject of her, she now has the nation's fastest time for the steeplechase. And that's all.
Right. Nice article on in the paper. Yeah. Well, I didn't go to miss the President night because I went to the middle school musical, which was Peter Pan, and it was well done. I mean, we keep pushing these productions down lower. I mean, even some of the elementary school productions are getting more and more complex, but the middle school one, it was very well done. I thought the singing was really good. The actors, and considering the middle school kids, it was really good. I have one more other thing. Does anybody else have anything before I?
Oh, just the Jazz Fest.
The Jazz Cabaret.
The Jazz Cabaret was
Oh, right.
outstanding. And we had the art show.
Art Show,
The
National
art show,
Honor
yeah.
Society induction, that was wonderful. The art show was great, like live acts at it, of throwing pottery and making music, it was great.
All right. Well, I'll actually stand up for this one. Huh? I'll just do the board thing. We'll just embarrass her by myself, Sharon. It's not often that the board president gets to give an award to another board member, but one of our board members has been participating in a number of training and has reached the point that she has earned a certificate. So Denise, if you could.
Oh, I thought you were talking
Yeah.
about Leah.
And so I'd like to present this.
Oh.
So congratulations.
I don't know what that- Wow.
You need to get a picture.
Of course, you understand, Denise, now we get to ask you the questions
You go ahead.
and expect the answers.
I'll do my best. I was waiting for you. Thank you.
No. Okay, any other Pride, by the way? We got everything? Okay. That brings us to the Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, no, with just the presentations that are on the agenda, but we also have started, doing a lot to recognize each group of our employees, and last year we started our School Lunch Hero program, and it was the children participated, especially at the elementary schools, and made it festive and bringing cards, and some of our school lunch employees actually dress up, and that is tomorrow. And we're all, Linda, myself, and some people from facilities and our staff, we're all going to divide and conquer and go to each one of the school kitchens tomorrow during lunch to recognize and celebrate our school lunch employees. But
Good.
what's really nice is the children that get involved and send cards and thank yous to the school cafeterias. It's great. So it's a fun day. If you want to come in for school lunch, just register at the front desk.
Doug, if we could back up just to Pride, what was missed, also this week we had a recognition for the athletic department in terms of signings of athletes
right.
intent to participate at Division 3201 schools and signing of national letter of intents. It was the largest number I've seen at these events, and I've been attending them since the 70s. The spread of colleges was amazing, and I was happy to celebrate 2 signings by my former my former college. Of course, I couldn't offer him any advice. I did tell him, I says, I can't tell you what you're going to run into when you get there, because I haven't been there in 57 years, but it was nice to see. I mean, we had a selection of schools, a nice selection of students, and it was good to see. It was really good to see that, recognizing it. And if you think about it, looking back on it, the influence that our new athletic facility up there has had on some of the students that made it, particularly those in football, lacrosse, and track, that have been able to sign because of the training facilities they've gotten. We're starting to see a pretty good payback on what we invested several years ago in that facility. It's good to see.
Thank you, Dan. At this time, we're going to have Mr. Cunningham on the PE exemption update on the program that we started for this school year. Here you go.
Good evening. Again, I'm here tonight to speak about the update on the exemption that took place for the first time this year. I'm just going to do some overview just to catch people up or remind of what was proposed last year. The purpose of the exemption was to assist students with balancing their academic responsibilities with their athletic participation. It was made available this year, and it was for those students who wish to receive a physical education credit for the combination of a demanding academic schedule coupled with varsity interscholastic competition. Basically, the eligibility and criteria for the exemption is listed there. This year we had students must be in the 12th grade. Students must be a current member in good standing on a varsity team. During the marking period, the exemption is requested. Students must be academically eligible under our policies, have a minimum grade of 80 in physical education, and also pass physical fitness tests. The requirements: the student must complete and submit a request. There's a form that is completed and handed in to me. Again, the student is expected to attend and participate in physical education class until that form is approved. They must follow the athletic code of conduct, and the exemptions are listed up there. For the fall sports season, you're exempt for the first quarter. For the winter sports season, with it being as long as it is, it's for the second and third quarter, and then the spring is the fourth quarter. Again, the people that are enrolled in the exemption program will be assigned to a study hall. That was the purpose going forward. If you have a demanding schedule, that time was supposed to be used for you to catch up on your academics in the study hall. And also, the student would report to the physical education teacher for attendance purposes first, and then go to study hall. And then, once the season is over, at the end, at the end of the marking period, then if they're not continuing on, they would go back to class. The application process, as I mentioned before, there was a form to be completed, or an application, and the deadline for those applications is 5 days after the quarter begins. So, for example, the deadline for the fourth marking period, I believe, was April 23rd. So that was 5 days from the beginning of the fourth marking period. For the 2017-18 school year, athletes who are eligible had the option for the physical education exemption for 3 sports seasons. So we had some people who participated. Well, I'll just talk about that right now. We had 4 students apply for the exemption for the whole year. In the first marking period, we had 3 students. In the second and third quarter, we had 1, and then in this third, we also had 1. The exemption information was distributed to all of our coaches at the fall, winter, and spring coaches meetings. It was included, the whole process was included in their packet. I give out a packet to each of the coaches and explained, and we went through it thoroughly. I did that because I wanted coaches to be prepared for an athlete if they were to come to them. So that's, I don't know, I mean, we had a few coaches that had questions about it, but again, it was done just to prepare them for it so they can give out accurate information. Recommendations for the 2018-19 school year, I would say I would keep the eligibility criteria and requirements listed in the previous slides the same for the 2018-2019 school year. Reason being is I feel like, we just didn't have a really good sample size this year to determine whether or not we want to. I know in the original proposal it thought maybe about going to 11th and 12th grade next year. I would say, I think right now, in speaking with our physical education department and people involved in this, that I think another year would be good for us to keep it the same. One thing that I didn't put on the slide that I thought about today is, I did give it out to coaches, but I was thinking maybe of getting some of our guidance department involved as well to kind of evaluate and to see if there is an opportunity for athletes, just to have that information as well. I mean, I kind of talked about it with them, but it really wasn't, to be honest with you, coming in July, it really wasn't there, as I sit down and I evaluate this year, I think that's something, or I know that's something I would like to do going forward. And that's it. If you have any questions or comments?
Anybody have a question?
Did you get any feedback from the kids that were exempt? I mean, was it worth it for them?
Yeah. I mean, again, the same person did it. We had one student, how I said one student for the second and third, and then it was the same student.
Okay.
So, because he's a 3-sport athlete. So he just applied, and I didn't really sit down and talk to him about it, but he came into my office, we discussed it, he felt like it was beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess I have a question. How many senior athletes do we have?
Off the top of my head.
I mean, is it hundreds? I would say it's, 50?
Yeah, we have a high percentage.
So we have,
I could get you that number, I have it in my office.
out of them, we've only had 3?
Right.
When we discussed this, I had assumed that this was going to be wildly popular. So I guess I'd like to know if it was just the enthusiasm of the young man who brought it up, or if the qualifications, they didn't seem that tough, but I kind of like to know why more kids didn't sign up for this. I'm just curious. I mean, that's more curiosity than, it's not a complaint or anything.
Oh, no, that's a good question. I'm not quite sure. Again,
Okay.
not being involved in the beginning process of this,
Right.
but I'd say, that's why I'm saying maybe give it another year of what we have.
Okay. I think you're right.
And
Right.
see, I think a 1-year sample size is, it's something new. And I think maybe it depends on the grade level. Maybe Leah can help me out with that.
I have a quick question. Is it true that if you are exempt from phys ed, you can't participate in the badminton tournament?
Right, that's what I heard as well.
Yeah, so
that's another.
Our seniors take our badminton tournament very seriously.
Yes, absolutely.
So not being
So
able to
that's,
participate
again,
in it, yeah.
that has to be clarified.
But I also have
Yeah.
heard some talk among the rising seniors that they're considering opting out next year. So I think it's
Okay.
becoming more popular.
Yeah, I would like to comment too, because I spoke to a lot of students about this, actually.
Oh, good.
And yeah, that was a huge concern, that there was a big misconception about what the consequences, that there would be consequences for opting out.
There should be
Like
none.
not being allowed to participate in the badminton tournament and this. And so there was just, I think anything new, needs some time to be rolled out, and for understanding and for people to be able to join. I think it's always a snowball kind of effect, for people to start participating, so I'm not surprised that it was few. I'm surprised it was so few, but I think that was coupled with, just not knowing. With that being said, I'm sure it was all out there. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure the kids had the information, and it was all out
see
there.
what you mean. Okay.
So did they get in their gym classes, for day one, where they handed out information that this is an option for
Nah,
you?
there wasn't anything handed out.
Or something. I think
Right.
that's part of it. I don't
Okay.
think that everybody always were clear that it was an option. And that all being said, I would like to see it offered to the juniors and the seniors this year. I don't think it would be an overwhelming thing. I would like to go back to the original plan and offer it to both sets of classes. I think it worked for the students that did it. I think the option is that they need more time. The study hall option instead of the phys ed class is a good option for these kids.
Well, I think it is, but I would agree with Tom that in order for him to own this procedure coming in the middle, after it had no input to it. I would like to see what Mr. Cunningham will put together for this coming year, and I believe we should, me personally, that it should be like a do-over, still 12th grade. And I do agree that if it works, pushing it down to the 11th grade is a good idea, but I'd like to see, I like it when you were fully involved in this whole process.
And I think, like you said, anytime, this is the time of year now where I'm evaluating how things went this year. So one of the things is, how do we get the message out there?
The right
Like,
information
how do we do it? We do start early enough in fall sports where it can be, personally, like I said, guidance was an option. I can go around, or I'm thinking about going around to each team at the beginning of the season and just saying, hey, those of you that have, aren't aware, this is something that we have, just introducing it, basically. I didn't do that this past fall, I can tell you that.
No, I understand. Not a criticism at all.
No, I'm not taking it, I'm just letting you know I didn't do it. So, and that's something that, going forward, I think needs to be done.
And I would like to get our phys ed teachers on board. I mean, I know that
That's going to be hard, I got to be honest with you.
I know it's a tough sell, but we do offer it. It is an option for our students, and they have to let their students know that it's an option.
And we had a good discussion at our last department meeting about it, and I took their input.
Yeah.
And again, I have another department, I have one or two more department meetings at the end of the year, and I'll, again, go back and say this is what was discussed, and these are some of the ideas
Right, I
going
mean, they don't get to not offer it to the students as an option if we are offering it to our students as an option. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
Perhaps in one of the first meetings of the next school year, we could get an update on what you've done to... And that, I think...
Yeah, I wanted to add, I'm not sure in this case whether success means a lot of kids are doing it.
Agreed.
So, I think for years people wanted it to be an option, and it's an option. And, the PE curriculum, so just in defense of the teachers, has a lot more in it than any one particular sport. So there are some losses associated with opting out and doing it. So it's an option. I don't know that it would be a win to have half our building not taking PE. So, for all 11th and 12th graders, I don't think that's a win. I think it's an option for, originally the idea was for 3 season athletes who are just working 2 hours a day, every day, and then also PE. And so I'm just saying, just to balance, I don't know that we want to keep drumming up business for not having PE. I'm just saying that. It's an option.
The reason I asked the question is if a student is assigned a study hall, if there is no study hall during that period that they get, unless there's a study hall every period during the day. Oh, there is.
So what the procedure is once the person comes in and they're approved, I get in touch with Ann Daly to find out what that study hall what the study hall is that period, and then I let them know this is where you need to report, and I also let the physical education teacher know as well.
Right, and I'm sorry, just to clarify too, Aviva, I'm not saying that success is numbers, and I don't think that's true. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. If we only have 6 kids that choose this, to me, that's still successful for those 6 kids.
I don't think it's a cumbersome process on our end.
That's not it at all. Right, that's not it at all. But I do like the option, and I'm very much in favor of the way it's set up. I like the way it's set up. I think that the study hall, it's good that they can take another class instead. The whole point is to give them more time to work on their studies and to help out with that.
Right.
So I like that completely. So yeah, so I would just like to promote it as an option and just make sure that we have the proper information out there.
Okay.
Is anybody empowered to give a pass for the badminton tournament? Didn't raise their hands?
I have to say, it's one
the
of my
badminton
favorite
tournament
traditions, too.
is prepared for through phys ed classes. Like, you learn the rules of the game, and the sign-ups are through the phys ed classes. So, as unfortunate as it is fair that they can't participate in something that's organized through the PE department.
It's only run once, or is it run for every
It's run once a year.
phys ed class?
Once a
Phys
year.
ed period?
It's a full day event. The 11th and 12th graders are allowed to participate the day before Christmas break.
I think we could figure it out. I actually participated with one of the Interact Club president, the first president. I was her partner in the badminton tournament one year, and
You win?
I don't remember. It was a while ago, but it's a cultural tradition. It belongs to the culture of the school, not the curriculum. So.
Well, there's other things, like if the match runs over the period, I've heard results that teachers were a little annoyed when their students got to class late, but I think it was all handled more or less. But yeah, there's always those kinds of things. So, any other questions?
Just a comment, that the significance of this, part of what the significance I pointed out when we started it, and it was followed through on, is the fact, a good number of years ago, I remember, there was one glitch that spread throughout the southern part of New York State. It included Dutchess County and Rockland County and Orange County, was the fact that there were multiple students that had signed letters of intent to participate and go to school to play athletics at the next level the coming year, and 4 of them had that commitment by the schools rescinded, or when they showed up with their transcript and it was found that they had failed phys ed.
But they're not failing phys ed.
I know, that this program is set up, that even though they're not attending the class, the restrictions and guidelines are followed, and therefore they can get credit for the course. So there's no exposure to losing out on the
Right.
significant scholarships that these kids
They get
had earned, but lost because they said, well, I've got my scholarship, I've got my thing, what do I need phys ed for? And nobody guided them in the right direction, and suddenly they found out that the NCAA wasn't recognizing the awarding of the scholarships at that point because they had a failing grade on phys ed, which was necessary to be issued a diploma.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Leah, you're up.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Leah Straight. I'm the student board rep, and my role on the board is to tell all of you what the students want and what we're thinking and how we're feeling about things. So one day, Nate and I and about 12 other students were sitting in our AP Spanish class with Ms. Morris. Are there only 12 of us? Okay, there's only 12 of us, so 10 others. And not including the 4 native speakers, the other 8 of us face some major frustration when it comes to the point where we realize we've been in class now for 6 or 7 years and none of us speak Spanish. And so I got to thinking, and we all got to talking about, why can't we speak it? Why aren't we learning it earlier? I was like, well, why is that? And then I realized the board is the place where all the change starts. So here I am to represent all of us. This presentation has been supported by the 4 lovely language teachers who are here tonight. Mrs. McDonald provided me with a lot of the statistics, and the rest of them helped me clean it up. So without further ado, I'm majoring in biomedical engineering next year, but I will be minoring in Spanish at Stony Brook. Okay, so just a brief overview of our current language program. It begins in 6th grade with LOT, where you spend half a year taking Spanish and half a year of French. Students, when they enter 6th grade, are typically between the ages of 10 and 12. Following LOT, you take one language, you select either Spanish or French, in 7th or 8th grade, and you acquire 1 total credit, and then after 7th and 8th grade, once you get to high school, you are permitted to drop that language. However, if you choose, you continue on levels 2 through 5. Levels 4 and 5, both languages allow students to earn college credit. So level 4 is through DCC college, so if you go to a SUNY school, most of those credits will transfer. And level 5 is through APs, which is a little bit more of a messy situation because it's very dependent on the college you go to, whether or not they accept that. And the other thing about the age 10 to 12, once you turn 11, your brain's ability to learn languages quickly diminishes. So our district starts teaching language as soon as we kind of lose the ability to learn it. Okay. So why it's important. The number of Spanish-speaking students enrolled in schools in the United States at a secondary level has risen in the past 10 years from 13.2 million to 23 million, which is nearly doubling. We border a French-speaking country, and excuse me if I talk more about Spanish than French, but I'm a Spanish student. And globalization, the jobs in the world now require communication with people from all around. I know my dad works at IBM, and he's on the phone with people from China and Europe and all other different countries at all hours of the day. So being able to speak multiple languages gives you a competitive edge in the workforce. For example, Google, which is one of the biggest tech companies in the world, now not only do you have to be incredibly skilled in the STEM field, but they also take preference over students with backgrounds, employees with backgrounds in the humanities. So speaking another language might get you a job at Google over someone who doesn't speak that. And only 52% of the United States population identify themselves as the United States being their country of origin. So that means that approximately 48% of our population comes from somewhere else. And that doesn't necessarily mean they don't speak English as their first language, but odds are they don't. So advantages of studying a foreign language at a young age, because yes, it is true that no matter what age you are, Mr. Duffy, you can learn a new language today if you wanted to.
I took English as a foreign language when I was in engineering school.
But it gets progressively more difficult as you get older. So for students to start in, preferably kindergarten, but say third grade, like a lot of other countries do, you have a greater chance of being accepted to top-tier colleges and universities. If you go onto the College Board's website, you can search for any university, and it will tell you what classes are recommended and what are required when you apply there. If you scroll down to the foreign language section, almost every top-tier university either requires 4 years of language or recommends it to get in. Higher salaries, the same thing with Google and the greater employability, cognitive development, longevity, which essentially means I have a good friend who was pretty darn close to fluent in Spanish last year, and he left and he went to college, he didn't take Spanish, and now his Spanish is not so great. So if you learn it at a younger age, you are more likely to remember it. I have a friend's parent who was spoken to in fluent German during her childhood. And so now, even though she's getting up there, she still speaks fluently when she has to because she learned it as a child. Life skills and longer cognitive ability among the elderly population, which deals with diseases like Alzheimer's. It's been proven that you can potentially offset the effects of the disease by learning a new language. So, why bring elementary level language to the Hyde Park Central School District? So my thinking, and it's been agreed on upon a bunch of the people that I've talked to, is that more students will choose to continue on at the high school level, and language will be seen as more of a core subject. So when you're in elementary school, you start off by taking math and science and English and social studies. And in first grade, you take math and science and English and social studies. And in fifth grade, you're still taking math and science and English and social studies. And then you get to sixth grade, and you're starting your moody teenage years, and then just they throw language at you, and you're like, oh no, it's hard. And so as soon as you can drop it, you drop it. So our thinking is that if it becomes something that's normal to take, more students will be like, you know what, I'm used to this, and I'd like to keep taking it. So that's the core subject part. And also there are 2 other language APs. Right now we offer Spanish and French language and culture, but you can also offer literature and culture. The literature typically involves a more well-versed speaker just because it's harder to read a full-length novel in a language that you don't speak. So we would be able to offer 2 more APs. I think we offer 17 now, so we'd be having up to 19. AP enrollment will increase as a result. Right now we have 1 AP French student and 12 of us AP Spanish students, so we'd like to see that go up. More chances to earn college credit because of the increased number of APs. And language at the primary level is a huge draw for families to move to the district and paint our schools in a more positive light. I know Pine Plains offers a variety of languages at the elementary level, and That's a fantastic reason to move there and get your kids speaking. I think they offer Chinese and all these other crazy languages. And the 4 Cs, which I will elaborate on later. Higher standardized test scores. It has been proven that your test scores can go up literally by hundreds of points if you have the brain things, because when you're learning a language, you literally develop new neural pathways in your brain. And foreign language also improves English grammar, which I find myself in English class a lot, catching myself on these like weird little mistakes, because now I understand verb conjugations and like all these other things that you don't think of when you're a native speaker. So some of the Spanish students who speak it fluently in our class, and sorry, Ms. Calenti, I'm using Spanish again, but those who speak Spanish often have more trouble with the Spanish grammar because they're native speakers. So we struggle with English grammar, but learning it from a different language perspective will help you. So critical thinking, the first of the 4 Cs. Improved object permanence at a young age. So essentially, that means that if I say, that table is over there, and a kid looks at it, they see the table and they say, okay. But if I say, that table is made up of atoms, but you can't see them, the child will be confused because they can't see them. So essentially, they're able to grasp that concept of things that are there but not visible at a younger age, which is important once you get to the upper level sciences and you get to the point where you can no longer see things anymore. Better problem-solving skills because of the increased pathways in your brain, better flexibility of the mind, enhanced memory, better multitasking abilities, which is incredibly important, especially on standardized tests. And students who completed at least 4 years of foreign language studies scored more than 100 points higher on each section of the SAT than students who took half a year or less, which is a direct quote from the College Board, who runs the SAT. Okay, so creativity, the second of the 4 Cs. From our 4 Cs pamphlet, it says, be open and responsive to new and diverse perspectives. So in Spanish 4 and French 4, we do an art unit where we take an in-depth look at all of the artists who painted from the respective countries, typically from Spain, but all over the Hispanic world and also the French world. And then we take a nice trip, at least the Spanish class does, a nice trip down to the Met, and you see all of that in real life. So that definitely exposes us to a new world. And then in Spanish 5, which we just did, and I'm assuming French 5 as well, there's a music unit, which is pretty cool, and we explore all new versions of music and dance in those countries. And languages provide an access to a wealth of information about diverse cultures, and this information can be applied to students' work and provide them with a deeper appreciation for various cultures, which I think we have a serious problem with, because people tend to see something different and they assume that it's wrong because they don't know. But educating our students about all these different things and teaching them to appreciate it makes them better suited for a community and to go out into the world. Communication, the 4th C. This is a quote, so I'll read it. Americans who are fluent in more than one language can enhance America's economic competitiveness abroad, maintain its political and security interests, and work to promote an understanding of cultural diversity within the United States. For example, international trade specialists, overseas media correspondents, diplomats, airline employees, and national security personnel need to be familiar with other languages and cultures to do their jobs well. Teachers, healthcare providers, customer service representatives, and law enforcement personnel also serve their constituencies more effectively when they can reach across languages and cultures. Developing the languages and abilities of students now in school will improve the effectiveness of the workforce later. So as far as healthcare goes, my mom is a nurse at Vassar. She's delivered a number of the teachers' babies in our district. But there's also a very large Hispanic population in Poughkeepsie, and that comes to Vassar. And when they come in to have their baby, which is an incredibly intimate and it's a life-changing moment, she can't communicate with them because she took 1 year of Spanish in high school and then dropped it. And so to increase human contact and the ability to communicate with people and elevate their level of that kind of experience is a big deal in the workforce. And diplomats, I ride horses, and I work for a wealthy man who plays polo in Millbrook. And one of the fellow polo players is our current U.S. ambassador to Spain. And he did a study abroad while he was in college in Spain. And he learned to speak Spanish while he was there, and now he's a U.S. ambassador. Collaboration. the fourth C from our 4Cs pamphlet again, work effectively and respectfully with diverse teams. So there's no better way to learn to respect diversity than to be immersed in other languages and cultures from a young age. It's common knowledge that you're not born with prejudice, and it tends to be something that's taught to you. So if we're in school and we're learning about all the options and the other cultures and all the other languages, it becomes normal and accepting to hear that. And giving students instruction in the languages at a young age prepares them for collaboration with others in an increasingly globalized workforce, so we're not isolating ourselves anymore. So studies at the elementary school level, I'll just read the conclusion of this, but the results showed that for the children, well, essentially, students were taught in both French and German, and then there was a group who was taught in only one language from kindergarten, and the results showed that an advantage for the children who attended bilingual classes since kindergarten. They were better at grammatical judgment, correction tasks, and word recognition. At the high school level, the effect of foreign language on ACT scores. For each group, years of study led to improved composite ACT scores with the highest effect on scores in the English subsection of the test, but there have also been studies that prove that foreign language at a young age can help improve your math ability as well. So just to end, our goal is to graduate more students at Roosevelt. And what that means is getting more and more people out there in the workforce and ready to be a functioning part of society. But as society changes, as we become more globalized, as it becomes more and more important to speak a foreign language, and the prospects of jobs increase, the prospect of higher pay increases, we are not doing our students the correct service if we're not educating them in the languages that they will need to succeed. And I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going off to be a doctor, and that's why you have to speak another language. You can be going to BOCES or the CTI and learning to be a mechanic or a plumber, and being able to talk to an increased clientele with that second language will also make you a more valuable employee. And I'd like to leave you with a quote, if it will show up. A pervasive lack of knowledge about foreign cultures and foreign languages threatens the security of the United States, as well as its ability to compete in the global marketplace and produce an informed citizenry. The United States education system has, in recent years, placed little value on speaking languages other than English or on understanding cultures other than one's own. And right now we're in the midst of a budget vote for the science labs. And it's fantastic that we are upgrading our science labs. I mean, I'm going to be a science major, but in the future, it's going to be a requirement to put languages in schools. And we're all about being on the forefront and the innovators and the people who set the tone for the rest of the school district. So I think that bringing languages to our elementary schools is part of being on that wave of change and being leaders for it. So that's all. Thank you.
Yes. That was incredibly well done.
Thank you. Oh, hold on. I have packets for all of you as well.
You're supposed to ask us, what are we going to do about it?
Oh, yes. Questions?
While you're handing that out, I'll add a perspective from a half a century ago. My degree from Manhattan College is a Bachelor of Electrical Engineering. I could not earn a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering because I did not have a foreign language. And at the time, the college was in a position where it taught engineering with your final differentiation as a junior year, so they didn't have the time to teach it. But even at that point, it was recognized that foreign languages are important. My daughter, who was an accountant, spent 2 years taking advantage of the fact that she took a one-semester course at Boston College on Japanese language and culture, which became known to her boss, so that anytime they had the need to send somebody to Japan, they chose her and let her travel there rather than choosing a Japanese student in another area to present their position, figuring that she'd understand English of the presentation we would make, but she could adjust to the culture and the language and be believed by the people there. So she got a big leg up because she had just one semester she took at Boston College. And the last thing is, the embarrassing part about it was, we had a teacher teaching at Ralph O. Smith who was a foreign student. She came here and was doing a study in education, and she got a job working as a substitute for a year. She took 20 minutes out of her day, each day, to teach the kids French. And we always laughed about it and thought it was kind of cool and stuff like that. That year, the Ralph R. Smith Band went to Montreal and played the American National Anthem and the French Canadian National Anthem at an Expo Met game arranged by Miss Holloway. And afterwards, before that, we went out to breakfast. And we found out something very interesting. The kids were done with their meal 20 minutes before the parents were, because the kids could read the menu and order what they wanted, and the parents were trying to figure out what the hell are we doing here and what are we getting. Just from an experience of having 20 minutes a day. It was amazing what they learned, and amazing, people pointed out to me how they learned to pronounce the words and speak with fluidity, that if they tried to do that at the high school level was a real pain in the butt, because there were many sounds we had not learned to make younger that we couldn't make when we were adults. So it's been around for a while, but it was embarrassing to us parents that went on that trip that our kids were outspeaking us because of 20 minutes that we had no knowledge of.
Yeah, I just got back from the Dominican Republic actually about a month ago, and it was rather embarrassing with my parents who spoke no Spanish and me translating everything. So it does come in handy, even if I don't speak that much of it. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. Of course, everything has a cost. And not only in financial costs, but a time and cost of time. We have a curriculum, and I would just, if we're going to think about this, we have to decide where it goes. Is it a special? As we have other specials, is it part of the regular curriculum, which it's not right now, as far as New York State goes? I don't think anybody would argue that this wasn't a good thing. But I could see it lengthening the school day to actually accommodate something like this. I hear all the time that teachers at the elementary level are hard-pressed to finish the curriculum itself. So I would think it would take more time. I'm all for making the school day longer. I don't get a lot of people agreeing with me, but in other countries, the school day is a great deal longer. Sometimes it's a day longer, like a 6 day. So I think if we're serious of looking at it, we have to find out what it would cost, how it fits into the current curriculum, if it does, or if it doesn't. Do we need to add 20 minutes a day at the elementary level? And those are the kind of things I think you need to ask us to do if we want to do this this type of and I agree that with globalization there is no question that a second language, a third language even. I took French, but that's about, well, I've been to France a number of times, and we had a French au pair, and when we took her to Canada, she said, that's not French that they're speaking. But anyway, I know it's French-Canadian.
My family says the same thing about my English.
Yeah.
That's not the Queen's English. My parents came from Ireland and Scotland.
Okay.
So they spoke English and I didn't.
So anyway, Leah, I just want to thank you for doing this and for perhaps spurring us on to looking into this. I would hate to have it, this be, okay, oh, that was a great presentation, and goodbye, have fun at college, and, you know, kind of thing. I think this has merit, and I would like to see some kind of true administrative investigation as to whether or not this can be done. I think it can be done. It just, you know, it's in the details, that thing. So thank you very much, Leah.
You're welcome.
I would point out, Doug, I think Leah left us with a challenge, though, because if you think about what she said during her presentation and listen to what you just said, the challenge was there because she pointed out that Pine Plains does this. So what is it they know that we don't know?
there's several models in not too far from here of either dual language programs. There's several different models that start at the elementary level: immersion, dual language, bilingual. There's
When we
a
were
number of
talking-
models.
Yeah, it was even as simple as you bring in Spanish and French art to the art classes at the elementary school, or you bring in Spanish and French music to the music classes, and things that are already existing, and that's like an easy way to phase it in. And as like the grants that are currently in the legislation in the state get passed to cover the cost of all this, we slowly ease it in. But if I've learned anything on the board, it's that nothing happens quickly.
Yes,
So
for sure.
I will haunt all of you and slowly come back and check in. Perfect. Starts
We-
to die.
Great.
I assume we're gonna skip Goya, though, for elementary school teachers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Leah, I just wanted to add, I think you just did an outstanding job.
thank you.
And someone once told me that a new idea is like a baby bird. It's like really fragile. And if you need, it needs to be nurtured to survive. And so I think, it's a big challenge, but it's it's something fragile that we want to nurture and see what happens.
Also want to say that I really like that you brought the Four Cs in.
Ah, yes.
You really-
I knew that was bait.
It was, it was good, but it challenged us.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
My mother's singing in French right now.
Don't forget, take our
she was a French maid.
email addresses with you so you can bug us once a month from college. How's it going?
I'll stop by on my Christmas break.
Okay, at this time, may I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? If anybody would like to address the board on any topic other than a personnel matter, please step up to the mic. Got any takers there?
One of you has to go first.
You don't.
No. Not
Yeah,
allowed.
it's filmed.
Okay, hello. My name is Tom Middendorf, and I'm going to the FDR school, and I'm an exchange student from Germany. I came here in September and stay until the end of June, and I think it's really important to learn more languages. And I just want to tell a little bit about my experience as like kind of bilingual and how I learned like English in third grade and continued it until like now, and what opportunities it offered to me in all that time. So I in Germany started learning English in third grade, and it wasn't really a choice. Like everybody had to do it, and also keep doing it. And I think even my brother, who's 5 years younger than me, started it in first grade, like from the beginning in school, and took English and all the classes for it. And then later in sixth grade, we could choose like if we want to take French and Spanish in addition to that. And many people were interested in it and learned it from my classes, or from my grade in Germany. And I feel like English offered me like a lot of opportunities, like first of all coming here and staying here and living with a family in a whole new country and with a whole new culture. So that is like a really amazing thing which I couldn't have done without knowing a language or a second language at all. And I feel like also by traveling, I travel like a lot around in Europe, and just knowing different languages and like about the cultures is like really helpful. And I feel like it's really important to learn early, because I took English in third grade, as I said, and then I also took Latin in sixth grade, and I already noticed in those few years that it's way harder for me to learn like another language in sixth grade than it was in third grade, and for my smaller brother even in first grade. So the time when you learn it is really important and makes a lot of difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Nick Gregg. I'm also with Leah in the AP Spanish class with Senora Morris. And I would really appreciate if we had started maybe a little earlier in, third grade, because a lot of the Spanish AP is actually listening, and they sound like they're talking gibberish sometimes, and it'd just be nice if you started from an earlier age and it was just common to take it. And I think it would help a lot more people if they were, just in the class, because there's definitely a lot more people who might want to take it if they were in it, and that would definitely help them get into colleges. Or I know it's definitely a big deal when you're applying for schools to look in that, and it's definitely helped me in that area. So, go Spanish.
And French. And French. So I just wanted to stand up and support Leah, too, in her presentation and agree with everything that she said. I think that that's a great, something to explore for the board to explore. I think, my kids started taking Spanish in nursery school, actually. And it was only for a short time that they were there, but they still remember everything that they learned, the colors, the numbers. They no longer take Spanish, they now take French, but, that does stay with you. The other question I just wanted to ask about the PE exemption. I would really like the board to just reconsider extending it to the 11th graders, because I know last year when my son was going in 10th grade and we heard about the PE exemption, we said, oh, let me go and read, what they wrote about this. And it said in your document that it was going to be extended to 11th graders. And I think to, redact that doesn't, there may be 10th graders who are expecting to do that. So that's just one thing. And then the other question I have is, why do they need to check in with their gym teacher on their way to their study hall?
Okay. The way...
That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Thank you. It's actually refreshing to know somebody actually listens and remembers the presentations. Thank you. Tom, wait, we have to wait, sorry.
Anybody else? All right, may I have a motion to close public participation, please?
So moved.
Second.
Wait, Carly.
Oh, you had one? You got to get up quick.
Be quick.
Time to take a stand up. I apologize. So hi, I'm Carly Johnson, and I'm a junior currently taking French 4 in high school, and I must say that everything Leah said was absolutely fantastic, and I agree with it, because it would be so important to expand our culture and opportunities based upon language, because we're becoming a globalized society. I could open my phone now and text anyone in the world if I wanted to, but the only barrier is language. And then also, I must say that if I had the chance to learn language at a younger age, I probably would remember my verb conjugations that I forgot all about without 2 weeks of remembering them and learning them. And it would help out a lot. And I wish that I had that, and I wish that for future generations, they would be able to have that too. That's about it.
Okay.
Carly.
See? You weren't alone. Now you're off the hook.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Moffat, and I just also wanted to say I'm taking French right now, and it would have been a lot easier, I think, if I had started earlier, and I would have really appreciated that. And I just wanted to support you. Thank you for giving that presentation. I thought it was really great. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. I knew it. There was a lot.
Jen Morris, Spanish teacher, also a parent in the district. I can't let this go without saying something, right? So I just wanted to obviously support Leah. I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I have to tell you, I'm so proud of you, Leah. That was so great.
Thanks.
As a teacher in the district, obviously I support going as young as we possibly can. I understand there are definitely logistical issues that we have to figure out, financial issues we have to figure out. I would be happy to be a part of helping that to move forward in whatever way I can. As a parent in the district and a proud alumnus of the district, I just think it would paint our district in such an amazing light to be able to say, hey, I'm from Hyde Park. We start language, we teach our kids in elementary school. We have Spanish and French offered from first grade, second grade, third grade. Wow, you come from Hyde Park. Like, what pride to be able to say that. So I would love for that to happen to us in the future. That's all. Great job, Leah.
I have to count to 20 before I, yeah. I'm counting to 20 just to make sure that somebody else doesn't want to get up. Okay. Yeah. May I have a motion to close public participation?
Somebody had a thought.
I counted to 20.
Hi, I'm Mrs. McDonald. I'm sorry, just briefly. Thank you, Leah, for making that wonderful presentation. I just want to say that several years ago, I had the opportunity to actually teach elementary Spanish at a parochial school in Beacon, and I did it for 3 years, and I taught from kindergarten through 6th grade. And we didn't have to expand the school day. What we did was they were allotted a grant, a 3-year grant, where I taught part-time there. And what happened was that the other teachers had common planning time, had team time to plan different things, and during that time where the teachers were talking about other things that they had to do, that was the time when the kids got their special, and I went in and taught. In kindergarten and in 1st grade, the times were shortened. It wasn't every day of the week. If I recall correctly, I think for elementary school, for kindergarten and 1st grade, it may have been 2 days a week. For 3rd, 3rd and 4th grade, it was 3 times a week. For 5th and 6th grade, I think, you know, the higher they were, the more I saw them. So I believe it was 6th, 7th, and 8th, I actually saw the full week. Now, as far as times went, I think with kindergarten, because it was so long ago, and I'm trying to really recall, but I think for kindergarten and 1st grade, I think I saw them 10 or 15 minutes even. It wasn't just a huge investment of time. And what I would do as a teacher was that I would also leave materials in the classroom, so when the students finished their own regular classroom work on time or ahead of time, they would go to the little center, which I had prepared, and do any supporting things that they could do during the extra time that they had. And a lot of it was interactive stuff. We did a lot of things with song and play, and for their elementary graduation, they actually sang songs in Spanish. So different teachers from different specials were interested in what I was doing, and we also did a 6th grade play, which they did completely in Spanish. So I'm just saying that I want to do you justice, Leah, that you went ahead and put yourself out there to do this, and you did a wonderful presentation, but I just want you to know that there's hope out there, and that there are people who are doing it in other districts, and they're looking for different resources. So hopefully, as Mrs. Morris said, we'll be a shining light in Dutchess County, and at some point, you know, we'll be able to do it here. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Grace Shannon. I'm a junior at FDR. I take French. I think that we should be taking languages in the elementary schools, because right now a big struggle for me is trying to memorize and learn. And I feel like when you're in elementary school, that's when your brain is forming, and that's when you're able to memorize and learn more. But now we spend weeks at a time memorizing vocab because we can't pick it up. And then we take quizzes on just the vocab, not even making sentences necessarily. But if we had taken in elementary school, this would have been years ago that we would have already learned this. And so now we could have been learning how to have like fluent conversations and like be able to listen and have it not sound like gibberish. So I think that it would just be really beneficial to the students as well as just the community in general. So thank you.
Maybe I should count to 50 this time. Okay, are we good? All right, now, may I have a motion to exit close public participation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, I thought he was going to the mic. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay. There's not much more to comment except about the PE. It was a good thought about the promising that if it worked, that we would, this year was the trial year. And we did kind of say that. I personally am not ready to go there yet, but that's not my decision. Just one vote here. So you want to lay into that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I've already said that I'm in favor of it starting in the junior year. I mean, one of my real reasons for that is that their schedules are so packed. The whole point is to help them and give them relief if they feel that they want it by having that study hall available to them and that option. And junior year is definitely more intensive than their senior year, where I think that having that option to have a study hall to help them kind of catch up on their work while they're also participating in a sport. I think the junior year is what's important, more so than the senior year, honestly. So I think that should be taken into consideration. And again, if it's only 4 people, then it's been beneficial to those 4 people.
I tend to have to agree with Denise. Sarah was a all-year-round athlete, an honor student, and her junior year was far heavier than was her senior year.
Any other comments? We have other students. Mike, you had a student there?
I mean, I brought that up originally, if you remember. I said their junior year was more difficult than the senior year, but I think some of the stuff that my son is saying is, he won't opt out because he likes the grade to help his average.
But it's not calculated into their average, right? The gym grade is not calculated into
My
their average.
100
Is that
has been
correct?
very helpful.
You only get a pass if you exempt, so there's a loss, and athletes generally do really well in PE. So you only get a P, it's not 100.
But
It's not average, but it doesn't help you. It doesn't hurt you, but it doesn't help you.
But the number goes in.
But I thought if you get 100 in PE, that it's not part of your cumulative average. I thought that was not counted in.
As far as I know, it is.
It is. It's a class.
It's an official class now.
Yeah.
If they're giving it a number, it's calculated.
I thought, okay, I would really like clarification on that, for sure.
I'll tell you if it's not, but I think it is.
Okay, okay.
And I'll double check.
They wouldn't give grade.
I have been told in the past that it wasn't.
It may have been at one time a pass-fail, but it's been a numbered grade for a long time.
No, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I definitely could have it wrong, but that was what I was also told, that it didn't matter what you got in your gym class, that it wasn't calculated as part of your grade point average. So that's definitely a clarifying point for me.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I'd like to do. Since there are 2 board members that are not here, at the next board meeting during board discussion, can we have a discussion on which way we want to go? And
They'll have missed the presentation.
well, it's online.
They'll have to watch it on television.
They would have read it, or they could look at the YouTube.
It's been shared with them for 2 weeks.
Oh, Gina, you're leaving. I was going to make a comment before you left. Yeah. No, I just wanted to comment. There's one other influence that I've been exposed to over the last 2 years regarding languages. I have a large number of grandchildren spread throughout the East Coast, and I have been amazed by the grouping of 5 down in the number of them that have, when they come up, kidded around with me and actually expressed knowledge of foreign languages that didn't come from their parents, although one of your best students, Nikki, is teaching her students, and Brian, but Brian's out of the house too long. But where the influence is, a new influence affecting these kids, it's daycare. The daycare in the 3 families that I'm dealing with have a mixture of people provided there. They're not necessarily educators, they're support staff, but they are Spanish-speaking support staff. And they are very willing and very interested in sharing their culture and their language with the kids. So in some extent, I've got 3 grandchildren that are somewhat bilingual at this time, whose expansion on this point is going to end when they enter school. Interesting juxtaposition of what's going on, but it is.
They go to Hyde Park.
Well, one's in Maryland, one's in Philadelphia, and one's in Poughkeepsie. Well, I guess that's part of the United States. Yeah. But it's an interesting influence I've seen that's going on at that level. Because the kids eat it up. They want it. They want to understand. They want to learn. At that age, everything is new to them, and it's a great experience in every case. And they do embarrass me because they can do it and I can't.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you all for coming. Any other comment on anything else? So we're definitely going to put on the board agenda, board discussion, the PE thing for the next board
For
meeting.
May 24th, we'll put it back.
Okay.
Tom, did you want to clarify do they have to stop in PE on their way to study
Oh,
hall?
that's the other thing. I forgot.
Can you, come on,
Yeah, they, because it's for attendance purposes. That's the school, that's what they're assigned to. So if they, have it for the first marking or first quarter, and then they don't have it for the second, third, or fourth, that's the original attendance procedure where they are, instead of switching them. It just made it simpler for everybody to keep track of them being in school or not in school.
okay, well, I'll
That's the impression. I mean,
Okay.
that's
Maybe
pretty much how,
Yeah.
when I sat down with when it was laid out, that's what was agreed upon.
Okay. We can maybe look at that and see if there's another option.
Yeah, isn't
I
that what-
totally understand that, because I went through FDR
Yeah.
with the exemption, and it was much looser, but at a certain point, if your season ended in March, it was unclear what you were supposed to do after March, and but with all the technology, we may be able to find a way
Yeah.
to...
We can look into it, yeah.
Yeah, we can look
I mean-
into it.
All right.
I mean, it just seems like an extra stop that, depending on where your study hall is, of the now, 40 minutes of study time we've given them, if we're taking away 10 minutes of the study time to run to the gym,
Right.
not only are they getting extra exercise on top of their athletics, we're cutting into their study time. So I think we could look into that. I'm not making a promise, but I would think with all the technology, we might be able to figure out a way to get the PE teachers the attendance from those students, but we'll look at it.
Okay.
I have a quick question about the PE exemption. So I guess technically I count as an athlete outside of school. I mean, I spend like 10 to 12 hours at dance every week, or on my horse. And I know this is like way in the future once this is like a kind of more of an established program, but I think at some point we have to start taking in the athletes who may not be through the school, but I'm spending 2 to 3 hours of my night every week doing some sort of physical activity, and so I might not get that extra time to do the homework, even though I need it. But like, I know in the past we had sign-offs from like other forms of instructors, like if you did gymnastics outside of the school district. And like, I know this is way in the future, but it's just something to consider, because I know there
Yeah.
are a lot of students who,
Right. I'd have to look at I don't know the regulation off the top of my head, but I don't know if that's written in the to be the exempt, to get the credit. I don't know if it's in, I have the regulation sitting over here in my folder. I'll take a look when I go over.
I was going to add that we,
Yeah.
what we're doing follows the
The regulation,
regulations
right.
closely. This is
Yeah.
allowed, and you
Yeah.
can still get the credit.
Right.
So we
So I
have to
think
check.
you did, right, so that's what I mean. I don't know if that's in the regulation or
Yeah, I mean,
not.
we were going to bring it up when James was proposing it last year, but I figured we'll just let it
No, it's a good
slide for
question.
now. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Okay. Are there any board subcommittee reports? I don't think there were any subcommittees
Just the
other than, okay. There is nothing for board discussion on this agenda. I have a motion for the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us down to...
Second, please. Sorry.
Oh, I have to scroll down. Takes me a while. That's all right. Can I have a motion for special education placements, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that, Dan?
I've reviewed the packet and recommend its adoption as presented.
All right.
I'm waiting for a mistake just so I can point one out.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for the first consideration of Code of Conduct policy updates as listed in the public content?
So moved.
You got a second?
Second.
second.
All right. Any discussion on that? Any questions on those updates that Aviva mentioned before?
No.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And we're back to second public participation. May I have a motion to enter public participation? There's nobody left here, but I have a motion.
Someone.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Once again, we're in public participation. Most people have left at this time. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say? In that case, may I have a motion to close public participation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. I mean,
Did we do subcommittee reports?
yeah.
Yes.
How did I miss that?
Well, because we didn't have any.
Oh. Well, I want to...
Okay.
The SAVE committee met this morning, and there is something that was brought up that over at HPE, the playground, that right now we have the preschool running in that building. So we'd like the residents to know that the playground is closed during the school hours. They are having some issues of residents wanting to use the playground while the kids are there. So just letting all the residents know, the playground is closed during school hours.
And what are those school hours so that they know?
Just say from 9 to 4.
9 to 4?
Yep.
Well, I mean, you
Yeah,
know.
8:30 to 3:30, but 9 to 4 would, I mean, 9:30 to 3:30 this year, but 9 to 4 would cover it.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe there's signs stating when the playground is open for the public. We changed that a few years ago. When you,
They say there is no sign right now.
Did they survive over the year?
yeah.
I know they used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be, but they say there isn't now.
Okay. There are no other matters deemed necessary for this meeting. There is a need for a second executive session. May I have a motion to enter executive session, please?
Pro tem.
Oh, pro tem, right, sorry. Because Jay is going home.
Stay?
May I have a motion to assign myself as the clerk pro tem? I have a motion for that?
Okay.
So moved.
And we got a second? All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, Jay, for reminding me. You got, you want to stick it in there? Or no? Okay. Okay, now, can I have a motion to enter executive session, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. We're now in executive session.